Hi, Derek. How you doing? Okay. I was reading your writing. Very good job describing your intent. Excellent. Very, very good. I think it's a wonderful attribute for designers to be able to verbally express their intent and their technical approach. And it's really important, and that'll work itself well into your position once you get into the field in a studio setting. It's really, really important to be able to communicate your intent with your creative directors, art directors, and ultimately, in many cases, your clients. So this is great. Keep this up. I mean, not only in this class, but in all your classes. The more practice you get, communicating intent behind your design, the more expertise you're going to have doing so when you enter the field. Statistics show that students that have, or I'm sorry, I should say that entry-level designers that do have outstanding communication skills are promoted earlier and more often than their counterparts that don't have those same qualities. So definitely keep up the great job writing and informing of your intent. I've got your work up right here now. I think a lot of what I'm going to say will cover everything that you've covered in your writing. But I want to say this. I want to say that. Let me just bring this down a little bit. I want to say that what is a logo? Does a logo have to tell the story, or is a logo just merely a visual identifier? And I'm going to say that successful logos don't often or always tell the story. Some kind of allude to something behind the story of the organization that's being represented in a logo, and others are seemingly just a systematic mark that is meant to identify. Okay, the reason I say it is because right now, I think you're trying to do too much here, and I think that the viewer is just overwhelmed. Remember, our viewers don't like to think. We have to do the thinking for them. We want everything to be perfectly, specifically clear by the time the viewer sees it. So the reason I'm saying this is because you've got, look, how many different things are you asking the viewer to process here? You've got the P, the D, you've got the pen acting as the vertical stem for the P, and then you've got design and photography. You've got your type here, and then you've got this element here. So my concern is that you're trying to do too much. This one, definitely. I mean, definitely, there's just so much going on here. The viewer gets lost. There's no choice but to get lost. So my recommendation here is to really think about simplifying things considerably. To a very high degree, I think the most successful mark on this page is this one right here. Why? Because it's attractive, it's memorable, it's functional, it's scalable, it's attractive, and it works. And it also happens to be the most simple mark on the page. So my recommendation is to pursue something like this as opposed to this direction. You could do simply, and I think a great formula, and you've heard me, if you've been watching the videos in this forum, you've heard me say this time and again. A great formula is a mark, a monogram, along with your name and your discipline. So I happen to think your typography here is quite nice. I think that it's a pretty good match right there. So I think the typography can stay, but I would still work on this mark right here, because right now there's a few inconsistencies. Okay, this stem right here is a little too thick. This this stroke right here is really super thick. When you take a look at comparison as the other, this is just really super thick, causing an imbalance, making it seem like it's going to tip to the right. Right? So, and this could also be construed as an N instead of a D. So my recommendation is to just take this lead right here, work on this monogram right here, work on this mark, get it to be visually harmonious. Once you do, you can add your type. Now you have a couple of choices with your type. You can keep your logo, watch my cursor. So here's your mark, okay, then here's your type next to it, or you can place the logo mark on top of the type. But and then when you do, just watch your spatial relationships. Make sure the mark is not too big for the type, and try to get those dialed in so that it creates visual harmony. So what I would like you to do is work in that direction. Now listen, you're not required to do that. Those are my recommendations. If you want to keep this logo, please feel free. My recommendation is to move in this direction. I think it will be much more versatile, much more direct, and much more effective. So if you want to work on this, go right ahead and then just repost into this forum what you have when you continue working. If you happen to work in the next week, or in a perfect world, the logo would be complete, so we can start adding it to the other collateral pieces. But if you happen to find yourself taking a couple extra days on a logo, just make sure you use a placeholder logo. The reason you want your logo to be complete while you continue working on your other collateral materials is that, as I said, in a perfect world, you're going to use the attributes of your logo to create the visual elements of your other collateral materials. So just keep in mind that you may have to make adjustments once your logo is complete if you have worked any other pieces that you're using a placeholder logo. I hope that makes sense. If not, let me know, because it's pretty important. So those are my recommendations, and as I said, you're not required to follow my recommendations. Please feel free to use whatever you feel has the most potential. Okay. Okay, so those are my recommendations. The important thing at this point is that you get with me if you have any questions or you need any further clarification whatsoever. I'll be glad to provide in that regard. Okay, Derek, great job. Thank you so much for sharing, and I'm looking forward to seeing your next iteration. Thank you very much.